Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another pre-market stream here this morning. Thanks again for tuning in. Excuse me. So we do have quite a bit to cover. So we're going to have to speed through quite a bit today. We're not going to be able to go into as much detail as maybe we do on other days. And that's because there's just so much going on. Okay, tons of earnings reports and a lot of stocks moving, right? And a lot of different plays that are potentially in the works. So good morning to everybody, and we'll get started here pretty soon. As soon as YouTube probably does their job correctly and starts getting those notifications out to everybody, and we can get rolling. Soldier Boy, good morning. Kelly, good morning. Apple ain't stopping. Yeah, Apple just started kind of pressing down a little bit right now. Yep. Good morning, Jose. Good Twitter for a swing. You know, that's a couple people, well, somebody asked me, I think it was yesterday or the day before, about a Twitter long, and I was hesitant, didn't want it. So we'll talk about Twitter a little bit here today too. Good morning, Xander and Lewis. Good morning, guys. All right, cool. We got enough people here to start. All right, so let's get into Marty sharing the screen. Cool. All right, so first one, pretty much we're just gonna speed through a lot of things. We're not gonna touch on every single one of them, but I just want to kind of run through a big list of them. So you might as well grab a piece of paper and maybe a pencil and write them down. So if you don't already know them, Apple reported earnings. I'm just gonna run through a few of them, I guess. Apple reported, Etsy reported earnings, TWLO reported earnings, Facebook reported earnings, HIB reported earnings, if it comes up, or HBI, was that it? HBI reported earnings, PVG reported earnings. So there's just so many to go over. So we're not going to have the time to go over all of them. So the main ones I'm most likely going to be watching are going to be Apple, keeping an eye on Facebook, Etsy, and probably TWLO for myself. These are just a couple that I've mainly traded over the years. I've traded TWLO many times in earnings, Etsy many times in earnings, Facebook and Apple many times in earnings. So those are kind of my go-to earnings trades for the day. All the other little random ones that are kind of going on today, like PVG and HBI, you got WDC, which is Western Digital. Those are all ones that I'll keep on like a side note that I'll kind of pop on and take a look at periodically throughout the day. So that if some of the main ones I'm watching aren't working or don't like the way that they're trading on the day, then I'll kind of peek around at some of the other plays that might develop something I like, right? So, anywhooser. KHC is doing pretty good this morning. Yeah, so this is Heinz or whatnot. Yeah, or not. Let me type that in correctly, KHC. So here's KHC. This is performing pretty well so far today, just kind of trending. Doesn't really have any formation for a breakout right now, just a trending stock. So yeah, this is another one that kind of is on the back burner, keeping an eye on. This $30 mark was resistance. It's broken through that from the earnings report. So this is, again, something that is worth keeping on watch. So despite all the earnings going on, I'm going to talk to you guys about a couple plays that I kind of think I like, which is one is Twitter today. So the other day, I don't know if it was yesterday or the previous day, but somebody asked me about getting a long play on this, and I was like, I just don't think it's ready. It was still kind of trending down. We didn't really have too much buying going on. Selling pressure was still heavy. So if you look at, like, here's a 5-minute chart. So you kind of see like this was the short-term kind of support that it was trying to hold. And then yesterday it broke it down. And then it got hit down really good here in after hours. That move yesterday after market close was because of news that broke that Twitter is no longer going to be accepting political ads. And this was a move on Twitter's part because of what's going on with Facebook and, Mark Zuckerberg, having that, what was he at the House or Senate, wherever the hell he was talking, or Capitol Hill, excuse me. He was at Capitol Hill talking about Facebook and they're not fact-checking political ads, blah, 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 blah. So this was a move on Twitter based on what was going on with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg down at Capitol Hill during his interview. So they got hit down pretty good, but you can already see it's recovering pretty well. So really, I wouldn't want to be long on Twitter until it can start getting back up and over the 30 mark. So until Twitter can start getting up and over 30, I would rather be short bias on the stock. If we take a look at the daily chart, kind of go back a little bit, you can kind of see this is getting into this $30, it was at the $30 support level, and we kind of broke that down. But we are coming into this dip phase around 26, which is, again, support. So, maybe we get a move down here lower on Twitter towards the 26 mark, but we should be looking at a bounce fairly soon on Twitter, whether it starts today, comes into tomorrow. But this should be followed for the next couple days to weeks for like a bounce move over the 30 mark. Okay. Yes, sir, Angel. Yep. All right. Next one I was kind of considering was BYND. So BYND is an optimistic trade idea, which pretty much comes down to it short squeezing. We know that the stock's been getting hammered down. We know that people have been shorting it. So kind of looking to see if we can start getting back up over the $89 to $90 mark on BYND. And if we can start getting up through 89, 90, which was yesterday's high of day prices, and some resistance from the past couple days, we could very well see a nice long play on this. So this is just kind of an idea to look for a long play over the 90 mark, 91. Granted, it might not even happen altogether, but today I feel that analysis is still a little bit soon. So it's kind of like an optimistic idea, but it very well, if this holds up towards the 90 price for the next couple days or today or into tomorrow, it'd probably be more likely to breaking out to the upside tomorrow. Today, again, could be a little bit premature, but still worth keeping an eye on. Okay. Yes, there is a divergence. I called out a divergence on that like way earlier in the morning, probably around like 7:30 or something. Let me shrink this down. So yeah, this is like the penny stock for the day that a lot of people are watching. But if you look at it, there's a clear as day divergence, right? So the price action's been going up this morning while the momentum was dying out. And so that's what I was saying. It's got a pretty clear bearish divergence. Doesn't mean that it can't still have a good, decent move, but for the most part, if you look at it, it gapped up, it shot up, and it's been fading out since, and we're starting to see some big, heavy sell volume come in, and nonetheless, that momentum's really trended down fairly fast. Second thing to note is that AGRX is a 40 million share float stock, which basically means it's not a low float stock. It's more like a medium float stock. So you can still have quick price movements, but not like a dollar jump or like a $1.50 move. It'll be like 20 cents, maybe 30 cents at a time, if that. And not to mention, if you look at the 4-hour chart, it'll show the move from this morning, and the setup really isn't. It's just not even. The setup really isn't something that's a go-to play for penny stocks. Most penny stocks don't do things like this, and so the setup's kind of awkward to me. Maybe it has a decent move. I'm not really crazy about it. Then again, I'm hardly ever crazy about most penny stocks. I'm super selective on them and very particular. So anyways, it's worth watching, but there is a bearish divergence on it that's already kind of playing out. The only thing it does have, what it does have going for it is that it's been holding very well, right? Even with the dying momentum, this thing's been holding up extremely well. So that is something to consider, right? It's got quite a bit of volume. And then also, right, if you kind of look here, scratch that. Anyways, it's worth watching. And if it does keep holding up like this, simple to go to is look for a long over the pre-market high level at like 190. Seth, yeah, absolutely. So that's the nice thing about options is that your risk is always pretty much defined by the cost of the option. But just simple advice, if you're really going to be going down the road of options, which, everyone always asks me, like, why don't I do more options? And, it's not that I don't want to. I'm just so used to trading stocks and just focusing on stocks. That's just generally the category I fall into. I do know quite a bit about options. And then, also, when you run a chat room and you got tons of emails and tons of messages, and there's just so many things to keep up on a daily basis, it's hard to keep expanding the knowledge base outside of what you're already comfortable with for me. So that's kind of the thing there with options. But, quick, simple go-to thing for you. If you're going to be really going down the road of options, definitely start looking at strategies revolving around being the writer of an option. See, right now is when you say all you can lose, your risk is the premium. That basically means that, your risk is the premium, so you're the purchaser. If you can start building strategies around being the writer meaning the person that sells you the contracts, that's good, because and the reason I say that is because we all know the statistics that 90% of traders fail. And so if 90% of traders fail, you, in theory, can play kind of like the reverse psychology of that statistic, which is instead of being the purchaser or the trader, you write the option to the trader. So you put the decision on them to win. So you say, hey, if you want to take this trade, here's the option for it. And if they do purchase it, you're basically just banking on them being wrong, and then you will win. So anyways, look into writing and being the actual seller or writer of options. You can usually find some pretty low risk plays like that. Anyways. So Daniel, this is a question we get all the time. Right, so I guess everybody could listen up here for a second. Here's a good one. Why did ENPH sell off with great earnings? All right, so why did ENPH sell off with great earnings? There's a couple things here. So why does a company sell off with great earnings? So let's say company reports great earnings, stock still sells off. Why? What if the company lowers their guidance going forward? That basically is the company telling you that we're not going to be doing as good as we just currently did or were doing. So logically, price should go down because in the future, they're not going to be doing as well as they're doing right now. So why would you buy into a great earnings report with lower guidance on the future earnings report? That's one. Second, company reports good earnings. We bought the share price of the stock up to what we expected the stock would be worth based on the earnings report. Earnings report comes out and it's in line with our expectations. We're going to sell because we've already purchased the stock and share price has increased to what the company is worth in terms of our eyes. Example, company reports better than expected earnings and raises guidance. We have purchased stock on this company up to X price of what we thought the earnings would be. The report comes out and the earnings is better than expected, than we thought, and they raised guidance. We can anticipate price action to move to the upside even more because the future earnings, they're saying, can be better, and we already have seen them prove us wrong on this earnings report. So it's not just the report, it's how you kind of combine all the different scenarios or, however you want to describe that. But that's kind of what goes on there. Okay. So, yeah, AGB soccer, yes. So I want to touch on this. He raised a good question, right? So you're absolutely right. When it comes to someone deciding, so here's the thing is when you write the option to someone, it's still you making a trade, right? You're still making a trading decision. The goal is to put the favor on your side as much as possible, right? How smart would I be if I could continuously sell every single one of you guys in this stream a lottery ticket? Like, what if I could go buy 10,000 lottery tickets, or whatever, for $1, and then sell them all to you for $3, knowing that maybe a couple of you guys will win $500. It's a great way to do it. So the goal when you're selling options or writing them to other people is to pick something that is so ridiculous that it's most likely never going to happen. That's it. You're selling something or writing somebody garbage. That's what you're doing. You're literally giving them trash. That's the objective there. In some cases, not all, but in some cases, you're trying to write somebody garbage pretty much. All right. No, writing in as option is not a sell. I mean, it is and it isn't. So you have to understand you can buy to open. You can so pretty much you can buy an option to open up a trade. You can write an option to open up a trade. Okay? So you have to think about it in terms of opening and closing, not necessarily buying and selling. Okay, so yeah, now that we've kind of did a bunch of lessons, let's do kind of speed round. So let's look at kind of the big names today. So Facebook, we'll take a look at. This is still up pretty high in terms of like its overall price. It's all-time high here at 208. Let me put it on the 4-hour chart. Wow, it's being a little laggy. So yeah, we're still up, near 52-week highs. If you ask me, I'm not really crazy about any of the pre-market formation. As of right now, to be completely honest, I kind of want to be on the short side of the earnings. I know as weird as that sounds, but I just don't really see a great long move from where I'm at, and I don't really see that great of a short move. For me, I'm probably just going to be on standby with this stock for now, okay? If, for whatever reason, Facebook squeezed all the way up towards the pre-market high, there's most likely going to be a short scalp or at least a short trade potential there off the 200 mark, right? The likelihood that this rolls all the way down and starts, getting down to 188 or these after-hour lows, that would be a really significant move. So right now for Facebook, it's trying to hold a little mini support here at about 195. So most traders are probably going to look at this 195 mark and go, okay, if we can break below that, we'll have a short-term short play below that level. So that to me, that's pretty much it. In the really short-term aspect, you're pretty much a long move over 197 and a short play kind of below the 195, right? Because that's where this channel's at. You're kind of channeling back and forth. So that's kind of the short-term resistance and support on the stock that would probably play an effect as market opens, okay? Apple, AAPL. So Apple is kind of interesting with their earnings report because they spiked up, then they came down, they bounced up, and came back down. Nonetheless, I would probably remain more bullish on Apple just because it's Apple. Right? I mean, everybody walks around with their phone. So for now, I'm probably going to try to be on the long side of this stock. But if it gives me any sort of choppy kind of moves today, then I'm just going to avoid it altogether. So again, not really crazy about too many of the stocks popping up today. I'll still have some time to look around and analyze as we get closer to market open, where I can keen in on the watch list a little bit more for myself. But again, kind of same scenario here with Apple. It's trying to kind of hold around 246.50, 246 area. So that's really the short-term support from pre-market that I know a lot of traders are probably going to focus on when coming into the bell. Something to note, though, is kind of how this price action is moving. We came down, we bounced pretty aggressively. We came down on a really heavy sell candle, but then we got bought up very aggressively. So you're almost looking at kind of bullish engulfing formation here, right? You have this really big down candle. It's been bought all the way back up. So anyways, long story short, for now, I would be on the long side of Apple before trying to be any sort of short buys there. Indicator I use for divergence is RSI, but you can also use the MACD indicator for divergence plays as well. Mr. What I'll just call you 2011. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I do try hard, very hard, to teach all this and explain it, and wake up every single day and repeat myself 1,000 times. Yeah, I'll give myself a pat on the back for that one. All right. Starbucks long. Actually, you know what? That is a good one we should take a look at. So, yeah, Starbucks reported earnings. Starbucks is another one of those stocks that I never really bet against to the downside, right? I mean, when you walk into a Starbucks, there's always people there. It has kind of moved down recently, but nonetheless, I would say the problem here with Starbucks is it's right at the short-term resistance. So ideally for me, the play would be up and over, like the 80, 87 to close to 88. You kind of have this little wick here a while ago, so I'll mark that. So for me, that's kind of it. Kind of up and over that would be the play. If you look at it intraday here, pre-market, it still has a slight trend. I think this is actually one to keep on watch for a long, just because we're making higher lows into the open. Sure, it doesn't have all that much volume, but again, when market opens, volume will pick up on this. So I would say this could be a very decent long play, kind of through the 87 mark. And when I say through the 87 mark, that's usually where a lot of volume can kick in. The long play could very well start down here at 86. It could start down here at 86, 80, 86.50, right? We could pull back and then we could bounce. So really the long move starts down here, but a lot of that volume and action and volatility would probably kick in around that pre-market high level if it starts to break out, right? So like that's what we mean when you see a lot of, people teaching any sort of stock stuff, and they're like, oh, well, if it goes over this level, and those are the key levels, right? The key levels are where a lot of attention's at. The move can always start well before those levels, but those are the key levels that if they do break, you usually get volatility, you usually get some fast movement, and it is a significant point for the stock because it's changing direction, right? Changing key levels, right? It's like the change of a season, right? Here in Michigan, we have 4 seasons, okay? When you go from one season to the other, there's a drastic change in weather, a drastic change from the trees. They all shed, the leaves all start to fall. So there's a drastic change. There's a big shift, okay? And that's the same thing that happens in stocks. It's a big shift in momentum, right? The ball has changed sides on the court. We've gone from this side of the court to this side. We've gone from the 40-yard line. Now we're pressing on the red zone kind of thing. So you're changing the momentum there, and that's why there's usually a big shift around some of those levels. Can you buy stocks before 9 a.m.? Yes. XNet, please. Daniel, XNet, yeah, we can take a peek at it. The reason it's not on my watch list is because for me it's not ready. It moved pretty good the other day. I still wasn't really crazy about it, but yeah. So I mean, if you think, you got to think. Not saying that you're not thinking logically, but what I'm getting at, what I was just going to say is, right, if we think logically about this, right, where would it be at in its formation? It would be at sort of kind of the double top scenario. It could actually have a nice move up, right? It's worth watching for maybe a play, maybe up towards like the 680 mark. That is actually worth watching for that. But if it jumps up to here today, the likelihood it breaks over 680, not likely, because you're coming all the way from 550 all the way to 650. Not likely that it keeps running through the 680 mark. What's more likely to happen, if what I just said does happen, and it jumps up to 650, 680, is it holds here, pauses, and then the following day you get a break over the top, because the following day would create the bullish pennant formation that a lot of people would respect, right? So if it does jump up to the 650, 680, you're really just running into a double top formation for the short term time being. Stand by for Twitter, bullish over like the 30, 30, 50 or like 31 mark on Twitter. Mr. Kata, appreciate it, my man. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, if you bought Twitter or if you bought Apple before the close, yeah, you might as well just hold it. There's really no reason to sell. Give it some time to kind of work its way and play out. Connor, do I use the TD app? The only time I ever use the TD Ameritrade app is like when I like peek in to maybe take a screenshot of the money I've made on the day, or if like for whatever reason I'm in a swing trade or I'm not at the computer and I need to close something out, then yes, I would use the TD Ameritrade app. But generally, no, I don't really use it. All right, guys. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and close it down for the day. It's the 31st. Today is the last day of our Halloween 35% off sale. Not trying to push a sale on you, but again, it's the last day. So if you want to use the coupon code Halloween 2019, you can do so on our website. It is linked in the description below. Visit it, check out our website, all the products. At checkout, enter Halloween 2019, and you'll save 35% off. All right? Everybody take care. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for another stream.